Well, welcome everybody. This is John Thompson, and we'll doing iMoot at 9:30 here in the U.S. on the East Coast. I'm not sure where everybody else is, but if you can indicate in the chat box, that would be good. That's a good way to get started. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, because we're from around the world. I'm in the U.S. and Stefan, my assistant here, is in Germany. So we have somebody in South Africa. That's great. That's in Kansas. Good. Okay. We're multiple time zones, which is the power of the internet and Moodle. So here we go. We're going to be talking about how to engage online students with human touch. Spoiler alert, this is not specifically about Moodle per se. What we're going to be talking about will be more generic. It's certainly applicable to Moodle. I teach graduate courses using Moodle, so I'm well versed in Moodle. I've been using Moodle probably for 5, 6, 7 years now at this point, and I'm still learning. I've learned some things already in this conference, which is one of the beauties of attending these online conferences. So let's get going. So this is who I am. Emeritus means I formally retired, but I still teach online courses both at Buffalo State College, which is in Buffalo, New York, USA. I also teach for Boise State University out in Idaho, another part of the USA. And I've been doing online work for 15, 16 years. And again, I'm still learning. So don't feel badly if you don't know it all, because I don't think anybody knows it all. So I've been involved in K-12 education, higher ed, government work, private sector. So got a good overall viewpoint of education and training. So let's start with a quick question. And we don't have any A, B, or C types of choices here with the big blue screen, big blue board. But if you just indicate perhaps in the chat box, what do you think your students are? Are your students up to 10% not engaged, or maybe up to as much as 25%, or more than 50%? What do you think? So you got 4. Melanie thinks more than 50%. Okay. Anybody else care to hazard a guess? Either a guess or something you've actually done some surveys. 2. Okay. Thanks, Melanie. Stefan. Crappy, lazy students. I think they drink from the same trough in many cases. And we just started to use Moodle. That's fine. 26 to 50%. Okay, super. Well, I think that the one question is, I think we all have some students who we feel are not as motivated as they could be, not as motivated as their instructor, for sure. And again, that's one of the things that we have to talk about. If you expect students to be engaged or motivated, first thing is the instructor, in this case me, has to be motivated and engaged. And we'll touch on that during the presentation a little bit. More than 50, okay. So this is what we're going to be doing over the next 30, 45 minutes or so. And by the way, we're going to keep this very informal. We have a small group. So if anybody has anything that they like to say or ask, that's fine. You can use the chat box. Stefan is going to be monitoring that in case I miss it. Certainly I can turn on anybody's microphone that has it. I notice most people are on the listening only mode. That's fine. So we're going to be keeping this light and informal. There will be a specific place for questions and answers, etc., at the very end. But at any point during the presentation, if somebody has a question or an issue or a suggestion, please, not a problem. So we're going to be talking about what students like. I mean, a lot of times we talk about student-centric instruction. What does that really mean? In my mind, it means listening to the students and listening to what they say, formal and informal. I do discussions quite a bit in my courses, asynchronous discussions. And about midpoint in the semester, I do a discussion specifically on feedback, soliciting feedback. That's in addition to the formal course evaluation at the very end of the course. And I've had some excellent suggestions from students, many of which have dealt with the human touch issue that this presentation is all about. So first of all, just listening to the students, and you'll see some things that the students are saying during this presentation, because I really value what they have to say, because they're the customer, I guess. So we'll see how human touch is used, some best practices, how it enhances student engagement. And one of the things I want to hope that we walk away from for each of you is to have a PAP, a personal action plan. And we'll talk about that toward the end. So what works? This is my top 10. It's fluid. I'm sure it may not be your top 10. First, if you want students to be engaged, you want a safe, comfortable environment. There's any number of different ways to do that online, just with the choice of words, for example. Establish rapport through the initial emails before the course even starts, or in the opening discussions, having a Q&A discussion that's always available, so that somebody has an issue or a problem or a suggestion, it's for the good of the order. Clear instructions. This is something I continue to work on myself. It's very clear to me what my assignments are. It's not always clear to the students. So that's something that I continue to work on. Sense of humor, whether it's using emoticons or whatever. I think that the students appreciate humor. Focus, keep focused on the topic at hand. It's so easy to get off task, especially in the asynchronous discussions. Choices. That's something that I came across not too long ago. I've been doing this for, as I say, 15 or 16 years, and I've always sort of provided choices, but not really choices. So I provide a lot of choice in my courses, my middle courses, where there's choice of discussions the students participate in, the assignments that they do, or how they do their assignments. If they have a project, they choose their project topic. So the students really appreciate choices, even if they don't vary from the main road. For example, if an assignment is asked to do students to do 200 to 300 word response, my students typically have a choice to do it in a different format, whether it's a PowerPoint or Prezi or VoiceThread, whatever. A lot of students take that and run with it. A lot of students, don't. But they all feel very appreciative of having the choice. Incentify, points matter. If there's no points, the story there. And number two, I'm a big believer in instructor being present. For example, in the discussions. I know that not every instructor feels that way because of either pedagogical reasons or time issues. But from the student perspective, there is no choice. And obviously, number one is human touch. That's what we're talking about today. So high tech, high touch. It's not something new. John Naisbitt, what is that? 35 years ago, 18 plus 15, 33 years ago. Anybody remember reading that book? Anybody old enough to read that book? I still have actually two paperback copies of that book someplace around this house. It was pretty much a seminal publication at the time. And if you haven't read it, it's always good for a read. See what's happened in the last 30, 40 years. And today, more than ever, we need online human touch. With Moodle, and it certainly as seen in this conference, we talk a lot about the mechanics, blocks here and what we can do and gamify this and set up and whatever else. And that's fine. That's a delivery methodology. But overlying that or underlying it, depending on how you view it, we really need to take the human element into account. And I think a lot of times when we talk about high touch or high tech, we really don't talk about high touch. Or we talk about it, we give it lip service, but we really don't implement it. So, one of my favorite quotes, I think Zig Ziglar maybe popularized this. This is paraphrased. Students do not care how much the instructors know until the students know how much the students care. I think that's a thread that if there's a walk away, one thing you walk away with from this conference presentation is this quote. Now, you can be a subject expert, but if the students don't think you care about them, it's not going to be as pleasant an experience taking your courses as it could be. So caring is big time. So here's a case in point. I'll throw a little research in here just to keep everybody honest. So fairly large scale survey, community college students. Community college in the US are the first 2 years out of high school. 3 characteristics of an outstanding online teacher. Over 600 responses. So communication and availability. Typically that means, hey, if I'm a student and I send you an email, I expect your response in a timely fashion. Now, we all know what timeliness is to one person, it's something to others. That doesn't mean that if a student sends you an email at 3 o'clock in the morning, they should get upset if you don't respond by 3:30 in the morning. But certainly, 24 hours or whatever you say in your course syllabus. And certainly everybody probably should say something in their course syllabus as far as that, as far as availability. If it's strictly through email, or if you give out your office phone number, or in my case, I give out my cell phone, but it's a Google number, so it's not my regular cell phone number typically. But I've never really had any problems, knock on wood, with giving out my cell phone. Compassion, again, this is the caring angle. Organization, how your courses are put together, feedback. Students like to know how they stand. That could be, for example, if you have a leaderboard. I'm just starting to gamify one of my undergraduate courses that's not using Moodle, it's using Blackboard. I'm just sort of got my toe in the water. I do a lot of things that would qualify as far as gamification, but now I'm trying to formalize a little bit more. And then once I have that course off the ground, then I'm going to turn my attention to my Moodle graduate course. And instructor personal information. Sharing your own personal information. That doesn't mean you have to tell them personal information, but if you're married or where you live, whatever. But again, that's up to you as far as what you share. But a lot of times we like students to share their personal information, for example, in an opening discussion, but a lot of times we don't return the favor. Caring. So how do you demonstrate caring? Again, Jones first time. Again, feedback. Reflect back to the students how they're doing. Good or bad. Students like to know. And you can. It's a question of how you phrase that feedback as well. Is it strictly text? I mean, do you do auditory feedback? Do you do video feedback? I think the issue typically is a question of time, especially in online courses. Students need to know that their thoughts, their opinions, their ideas, their suggestions are valued. And in my case, I more than value them. I really want them, really, because as I mentioned, we do an informal discussion halfway through the course as far as how are we doing type of feedback from my end. Is the course online? How am I doing? suggestions for improvement. And students really appreciate that. And the other thing is, for example, in the first week of my courses, I give the students an opportunity to finalize the syllabus. So the syllabus is not cut and dry, written in stone when the course starts. I give them a chance to respond and make any suggestions. Now, rarely do the students have a suggestion, but again, it's the idea that they're partners. They're asked for their opinion, and if they do offer, then we deal with it. And they have had over the course of years some excellent suggestions. Empathetic, understanding. A lot of things happen with students. All that. I mean, I know sometimes we feel we get taken advantage of. Just there's so many grandmothers that can pass away during a course, for example. But things happen, and I think the idea from the instructor point of view, you have to show some empathy, some accommodation. That doesn't mean you don't have any limits, but as you see in a few of the next slides, there are some things you can do. Again, caring. Jones a year later again. Academic caring is the #1 predictor. So if you didn't have an incentive to be caring and empathetic, here's the reason why. If you want your instructor ratings, your course ratings, course evaluations to be impacted positively, show more compassion, more empathy, more caring. The students feel that their instructors care about them and their learning. Your course evaluations increase. Makes sense, but a lot of times, what makes sense doesn't happen. It's like the quote goes, common sense is all too uncommon. So here's some actual quotes from actual students. These are not anything that I made up. So this sort of violates all the rules of the road for using PowerPoint, but I can't think of any better way to do this. So just take a couple minutes to read through those. There's two different quotes there. When instructors communicate, and I start communicating with the students at least 2 weeks before the course starts. And in fact, I'm teaching a course now at Boise State University for the summer, two sections of the same course. And the summer session has been condensed. Up until this year, it's been 8 weeks, which is even half of what the normal semester is. But in the summer, it has been 8 weeks. Starting this summer, it's been condensed to 7 weeks. So since the students have a couple of major projects that they have to do during that time, I started communicating with the students probably, let's see, the course starts the end of next month, end of June. I've already sent out, I think, 3 emails to this point, and either sending another email out today or middle of next week again with the an update as far as, okay, gang, we're going from 8 weeks to 7 weeks. Here's the book you need. We're going to be using it starting day 1. So including a updated syllabus, some examples of previous course projects, etc. So that they have an opportunity to get started. Now, as you know, a lot of students don't even read their course email during the course, let alone 4, 5, 6 weeks before the course starts. But that's how you do it. So let's see what Andy says. Almost always ask the students how they feel on key points. Yeah, it's pretty common that they do coincide with you. So that's a sort of validation for you and for them. That's a mutual admiration society there. That's good. If there's bereavement, teachers make adjustments. Right. I think that some teachers feel that sometimes they're taken advantage of when students, perhaps even more so with with online students. I haven't seen any research to indicate it, but if there students try to take advantage of the instructors, and again, I think if you're going to make a mistake, and make it on the side of being too caring rather than not caring enough. Yeah, a lot of teachers are inflexible, Melanie, even with bereavement or deadlines, for example. And then we'll talk about that in a few slides. But again, it's partly your pedagogical approach, your philosophy, who you are as a person, I guess, in some ways. But yeah, second quote: unable to have a post on Friday, lost points. I was concerned. I sent an email saying what's going on. And this is a theme in all my courses. I'll send emails to students who aren't doing well. It's frustrating from my end when I don't get a response from the students, and that happens usually with my undergraduate courses. I teach a computer science 101 course, and that's a whole different world from my graduate courses. But yeah, that's another topic, another presentation. So empathy, again, using actual quotes from real students. So here's a student that says, "Hi, John," and again, I don't specify how the students address me. Dr. Thompson. Typically, I sign everything Dr. T in my emails and everything. But if a student wants to call me by my first name, that's fine. And that's typically, again, graduate, undergraduate. It's usually either professor or some derivative of that, Dr. Thompson, or doctor, or in some cases, hey you. you know how undergraduate students can be sometimes. So thank you for the invitation. Again, they just appreciate the effort. And the other one, appreciate understanding feedback. So I had a student this past semester that was struggling in my undergraduate course, and we had, I think 3 different telephone conversations. Again, everything being online. So again, making yourself available. As far as office hours, I don't have any set office hours, but I tell the students all I have to do is contact me. We'll set something up. Typically office hours by appointment. So our mutual calendars coincide. Another email. Get loggers. If you've ever been near loggers when a chainsaw is going on, it's hard to concentrate. And actually, another take on this concerning trees, I had a student a few years ago who emailed me to say that she had a tree fall down in her bedroom overnight. It came crashing through the roof. So she was asking if she could have a few extra days to do the assignment. Obviously, she could. There was no way for me to verify. I didn't ask for a photograph or anything of the tree crashing through her roof. But you have to understand things happen. And my response was, "Ouch! No problem. You need an extra day. It's pretty stressful here." I think that again, showing empathy, showing that. Again, giving of yourself a little bit. I think this email exchange happened when I was selling an older house we lived in for many years and building a brand new house. So it was very stressful, definitely stressful on my end as well. So the student, her response was, thanks, basically. Question. So other ways at this point in time can we online instructors demonstrate our empathy and caring? So Raj is saying, so I'll provide a funeral notice. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, it's up to you, Raj. I don't think I've ever asked for a funeral notice. I just sort of go on faith that the students are not lying to me. But I know that at various points in the past, I'm sure that students have stretched the truth, shall we say. But yeah, that's up to you. Yeah, office hours become 24/7. Yeah, that's true. I think that I mean that just taking consideration this conference where we're basically worldwide, and it's 9:30 Friday morning for me. It's 9:30 in the evening in Perth, Australia, and Stefan, I'm not sure what it is in Germany at this point, but probably someplace in between. Or next day. I mean, it's crazy, but you can do it. But it certainly trying to schedule a synchronous webinar or a synchronous conference chat with a class that's spread around the world, that becomes problematic a lot of times. So a friend's house burned during one semester, and instructor not flexible. Must be that Kansas Republican thing. I don't know. What can I say? I don't know. That's very unfortunate. I don't think there's any reason why you can't be flexible to some degree. Frankly, I really don't care what your philosophy is, but if your house burns down and you still expect the students to do assignments no matter what, that's hard. That's hard. Yeah, Carrie can mean going the extra mile in feedback. Too much looks like standardized. Yeah, yeah. And again, I work on that too, especially when you're doing online, when you're doing, depending on how many students you have. Sometimes your response can be rote and look pretty much the same from one student feedback to the other. And I work on that too. It comes down to a question of time as much as anything else. You balance the time versus how it comes across as far as targeted feedback. And that's something we all deal with. So we offer 2 times, so nobody has to be up in the middle of the night. Instructors are always 24/7, right? Wrong. We have lives too. Personal feedback is becoming rare. Yeah, teaching staff has too much to do and time pressure. Yeah, that's certainly the case. You can only do what you can do, and then you can only do what you can do for so long. We all know that. So you have to take your situation into account as well. It's sometimes a delicate balancing act. Showing caring for you, you don't want to put yourself at risk or your family or whatever. So you have lives too. So it's not an either or, not a zero-sum game. So it's not easy. But I think that the issue I'm trying to stress during this seminar right now, this presentation, is that at least be aware, and so that and make your students aware that you're aware. Think about priorities. Some things aren't important. A lot of people get off on being bossies. Bossy and bosses. We all been there, I've been a boss before, and I've been guilty. So hopefully I've seen the light a little bit. Students face tough problems sometimes, as Raj says. Partner's broken into, lost your computer. Raj literally borrowed an extra copy. That's great. One of the things in my online course, at least for my undergraduate course, I have a quote from Clint Eastwood in one of his movies, Heartbreak Ridge. There's something to the effect that if you have a problem, you overcome it. And it's easier said than done. If you have computers stolen, I mean, there's a lot of places to get computers. I mean, every library has a computer now, and every friend has a computer, and a lot of people have more than just one computer. So they have a laptop, they have a tablet, they have a smartphone. But again, showing some compassion though and working that out as Raj did. Priorities is tough. A lot of feedback. With a lot of feedback in German schools, you obliged to use standard phrases. Okay. Well, that makes sense too. I guess it's just starting to, and some, I guess it makes sense. I'm not sure exactly how, but okay. And it gives time for feedback. Okay. So the idea is that empathy and caring just don't happen. I mean, some people are just naturally empathetic and caring people. Others, have to work on it a little bit more. But it starts with being made aware that that's something we should be caring about. You should be caring about being caring, I guess. So connection. Here's a couple examples. I mean, these have been around on the internet for a while, but oldies but goodies. Hot chocolate, popcorn, watching a stream movie together. Drexel, which is in Philadelphia on the East Coast here in the USA. Again, just nice, just acknowledging students and trying to overcome the limitations of online learning. As we know, online learning presents some really good flexibility. That's what everybody likes about the 24/7 nature of it. On the other hand, a lot of students miss the eyeball effect, face to face. So watching a stream movie together, it may not be exactly that way, but at least they're having a shared moment. Lived in the UK, yeah. I'm a coffee drinker myself, but that's a whole other story. Communications, another, caring, communications. Again, these are student quotes. I think it's important really to listen to the students and see what they say and their feedback that they provide. Now, we talk a lot about feedback we provide students, but a lot of times it's just as important or more so in my classes that we get feedback from students, not vice versa, or I guess in addition to vice versa. Kept informed even before everything started. On the other hand, there are students, and I had a few this past semester, both in my graduate courses and my undergraduate courses, that took exception to how many emails I sent out before and during the course. Now, typically, during a semester, I'll send out, an average of maybe one email a day, sometimes two, but probably averages about one email a day. Some students really thought that was too much. I didn't even get into it with asking them how many text messages they send and receive that are not course related, but that's a whole other story, I guess. But it's what I'm getting at is just because you think it's great sending out emails and course announcements that get sent out also as emails, such as in Blackboard or Moodle. You can't satisfy everybody. You really can't. So you just try to explain what you're doing. Everything's explained in detail. If there's a confusion, I do clarify as quick as possible. But again, a lot of times, students, if they don't understand an assignment, they won't ask, and then they'll take you to task, later on in the course evaluation for not having clear instructions. So as I tell my students in some of the opening communications, I may have a PhD, but I can't read minds. So if you have an issue, a question, or problem, please contact me. But some students are just reticent about doing that. Yeah, get feedback from students halfway through the semester. Yeah, I do that as well. That's a matter of course. Been doing that for a long time. Yeah, ask them what we can do to improve, right? Sometimes we can make changes on the fly right then. Otherwise, I create a change email document for each course for each semester. So as things come up during the semester, I stick them in that document so that when I'm putting together the course for the following semester, I go start with that document first to see what's happened during the previous semester and then make any necessary changes. Works for me. Again, this is presence thing. I think you really show human touch in my mind by being around. And that is, instructor presence is is shown in many different ways. I think for most of us, we do asynchronous discussions in our courses. That's become pretty much ubiquitous. But not all of us are actively involved. I tell my students that over all the courses I've ever taught over the last 15, 16 years, I have read every single student post and from every student in every course I've ever taught. That doesn't mean I reply to everyone, obviously, but if you post it, I will read it. And that's true. I have read every single post that the students have ever submitted in any discussion. Now, do they return the favor? No. I'm not that naive. But it's sort of a compact between me and the students that if they post something, I'm going to read it. And also from your perspective as an instructor, you want to know what's going on. Sometimes things are posted that you need to respond to, good or bad. So it's sort of a way to keep your finger on the pulse, or to see what's going on. But it's also showing that you care. I mean, if you're expecting them to participate in the discussion, then you are never there. Most students take that as a signal that you don't care. At least you don't care about them caring about participating in the discussions. And these are typical comments that I get. I don't think I've ever had a comment over the 15 plus years I've been teaching online. I've never had a comment where the students have said I participate too much, I'm too active. Not one, but I've had hundreds and hundreds of comments like these two. So it's not scientific research, but if you can have a longitudinal survey type of informal survey over 15 years and they all point this way, I think that tells you something. Some individual suggestions on human touch, makes students feel welcome. Whether it's a tea or a stream movie together. Now, students may not actually enjoy a course, but they're not going to, not like it either. Just something simple as referring to students by their first name, or if you're more formal, by Mr. or Ms. or whatever, so that it's not a rote response, as we've talked about sometimes. Does that mean the second quote highlight one of the weaknesses? So let's go back. This second quote here really talks. Yeah, I think that is a weakness when an instructor is not available, it doesn't respond to emails. I hear stories about that from students all the time, or the instructor does not have a presence at all in the discussions. The course opens, students never hear from the instructor until the end of the course. That's not unusual based on feedback I get from students. Unfortunate, but that happens. So just quick responses, watch your word choice, especially when you're doing so much text as we do. If something can be misinterpreted, if you try to come off as funny or cute, not everybody gets it. Not everybody has the same sense of humor as you do. And believe me, I have suffered with that on and off for a long time. With MOOCs, I think MOOCs especially have this issue, just because the sheer numbers involved. But and it's funny because I have signed up for more than my share of MOOCs myself. I've never finished one, never even came close. And part of that's just because I felt almost disenfranchised, unwelcome. There have been very few MOOCs, very few, where I've received more than just one email in the beginning. I'm involved in one right now that I started, and then as so many of us happen, you sort of put it on the shelf. I get one email each week saying that the new week has started, whatever, but that's it. And for the MOOCs I participated in, even that is a lot. So there is no feedback, there is no attempt to engage for people like myself who don't even go into the course. So I think it's something that MOOC instructors really have to come to grips with, because many of the things we're talking about in this presentation, they certainly could implement it in the MOOCs. I mean, if you have, whether you're having 1,000 students or 50,000 students, you can still do some of these things. It's just not, it's not rocket science, and a lot of these things don't really take that much time. So watch your word choice. I mean, you want to be respectful of the students, and a lot of times something you intend one way, even if you include that smiley face, students will take exception to that. So I've come to accept that students have, in my estimation, a lot of students have very thin skins. Now, that may just be my rationalization. I don't know, but it's happened over the course of time. So it's something that we all need to be aware of. You can use some audiovisual things. Bulky, Present Me allows you to do a video and an audio voiceover of a PowerPoint presentation, for example. Toon-Do, using some animated cartoons. There's a lot of different ways. And again, yeah, it's like anything else. Like doing a PowerPoint. First time you put together a PowerPoint takes a lot of time, but after that, you've got it. All you have to do is tweak it. Maybe change the opening slide, or just keep everything updated. It's like your syllabus. You don't change your syllabus completely every time you change a course. You may change some dates and so on, but the syllabus itself stays pretty much the same usually. Giving students a choice, again, it's more than just making students feel empowered. It's making them feel that they have ownership. For example, no one ever washes a rental car. Meaning, if the students don't have ownership, they're not going to take responsibility. But if they have a choice, if they have input on the course syllabus, like I mentioned, that I offer them in the first week of all my classes, students appreciate that. They're being treated with respect, that what they say counts, that it matters. You can add a face-to-face, live component. I've had less than mixed results with that, quite frankly, both graduate courses and undergraduate. Everybody wants a face-to-face conference online, but then no matter when you schedule it, no matter how you do the scheduling, you can do formal surveys and whatever to find the best date and time. In my estimation, or my experience, when you do that, you get less than good response, and that but on the other hand, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy if you don't do it. So I would certainly encourage everybody to try that, even when you're doing courses with students around the world. Again, even if students can't attend, if you can record it, such as we're doing with this conference, so they can play it back on their schedule, it makes a difference. Again, showing the students that you care, that you're wanting to reach out, be active and visible. We've talked about that. Group hugs, there's a lot of different ways to do a group hug, whether it's a face-to-face live component, or how you send out your emails saying, the attaboy, attagirl type of emails when students do well, either individually or group. So a lot of different ways. Doesn't mean you have to do everything we're talking about here, but we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Other suggestions here. Just show yourself, be real. For some of us, that's harder than others. Some people, wear their emotions right on their sleeves, so to speak. Other of us, we're human, are more reserved, less willing and able to, put ourselves out there. That's okay, but be aware of that. Students really appreciate when you share life events. So when I was, selling a house and my mother-in-law passed away, and we're dealing with that and everything, and so it's a question of how much you share with students. But students need to know that you care. One way that they know is when you come across as a human. And humans have foibles, instructors have foibles, and saying, well, you're dealing with some issues too, like in that one email exchange I had a few slides before. And humor, I just have to be careful with humor, because humor to one person is sarcasm to another, and it's even if you put an emoticon, and this typically would be an animated emoticon, but this is being a PDF file, is static. So you can have a waving, smiley emoticon, but if students think the words are saying something else, it's really not going to matter. So you can't mask what the words say by sticking a happy face on it. Passion, enthusiasm. I can't say enough about that either. If you're expecting the students to be engaged, you first have to be engaged. And students really respond to instructors who show passion and enthusiasm. You certainly can do that in online through your course announcements, your emails, your participation in discussions. You can do voice threads and other audio presentations. Students respond to that. But on the other hand, you always have some students that not every student is created equal. Not every student comes from the same background. So let's say with Vokies, with that, I had a student this past semester, graduate course. They really thought that was really dumb, for me to use Vokies to try and do announcements. So that was the first for me. So that I just stopped doing it, but it was unexpected. So you just have to take everything into account. And I think overall, just being nice. I think that's really what we've been talking about a lot of times. That's the underlying thread that's woven throughout this tapestry that we call online learning. Being nice, being empathetic, showing you care, responding in a timely fashion to emails, going the extra mile with trying to set up some virtual office hours. Just being nice. I know we all get stressed out. We all have so many things that are going on in our lives, but we need to be aware. So, one quote: "I'm nice." So one of my favorite quotes I've got from students. That sort of brightened my day when I got that one. It all comes down to relationships, really. I mean, the types of relationships you have with the students, and sometimes, obviously we're looking at student-to-student relationships too. So we all have the potential for being good teachers, and we really have the potential for being great teachers too. But we really need to be building relationships with students, and by showing that you care, by demonstrating different facets of human touch in our courses. That's how we do it. It's so easy for us to do a top-down type of thing, lecture format put online, that we just need to be aware all the time of what we're doing, how we're coming across. So it's we're looking for that kumbaya moments. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it makes everything worthwhile. So, based on your experiences, what are some other ways that we can use this thing we call human touch in making our online courses better? Any suggestions? You can just type those into the chat box. We'll give you a minute or so. Anybody have some experiences, or is something that they've heard the students relate to, respond to better than others? Okay. Well, if you think of something, shout out. Give space for non-course stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the ways I do that, Stefan, is I have another. In addition to my Q&A discussion forum, I have a where you can call anything. You can call it a virtual cafe or whatever, where it's for cafeteria forum exactly. Whereas anything that's not course related, I tell you, it's not used very often. I think my early years, it was used. The students participated more often in that. I'm not sure why over the years that we don't get much participation in that, but again, it's there, it's available. Just play a game for the sake of spending time together. Facebook, yeah, everything's taken off. I mean, everything takes a little slice of your time, a little slice of your attention. So, but can you dance to it? I mean, we talked about, all these different elements of what we refer to as human touch. What I would like each of you to do, before you close out here, before you walk away and go on to your next, whatever you're doing today, create your own personal action plan, your PAP. Commit yourself to starting with a self-evaluation, or even better, having one of your peers take a look at your course. Sometimes it's really hard to do a self-evaluation because, well, for the obvious reasons. But have somebody look at your course from a human touch standpoint, not from content per se, but how you come across in your courses, in your emails, your course announcements, your interactions with your students. Write down 3 things. It could be 3 things that we've talked about during this presentation, or 3 things that we haven't touched on that you're going to personally commit to. Just 3, maybe just 1. Or either a course you're teaching right now, you don't have to wait till next semester. And if you're teaching a course now and there's only a couple weeks to go, go ahead, make a change now. Commit to it. Write it down. Put it in that change document that I talk about, that I create for each subsequent semester. And then refer to it during the semester. How are we doing? How are you doing? When you do that mid-course discussion, for example, put them there. Say, hey, by the way, I've been trying to do this more often than in this course. How's it come across? What do you think, students? More human touch, more engagement, more achievement, more retention. It's not scientific research. I'm not going to quote chapter and verse on this, but that's, just works that way more often than not. So, 3 things today. And commit to doing evaluation, a really good evaluation of yourself and how you teach your courses, and then 3 things that you're going to do to include or improve on your human touch. So, are there any questions and answers, or just questions, suggestions, comments in general? Give me more about myself. Why not online, Andy? I think we all need to do that, within reason, within limits. Sharing, personal stuff. You just have to be careful. I mean, there's a lot of, crazy people out there, and some of them might be your students. So you just have to be careful as far as, where those limits are. And in your case, in our case, you may want to talk about them with your loved ones, your significant others, before you start. I wouldn't give out your street address, for example. But absent that, typically we can and should give more of ourselves. Receive trust, you have to give it first. Exactly. It's like if you're expecting students to be engaged, you have to be first engaged as an instructor. So anything else for good of the order? Because we're right at the end here. This is me. But if he wants to get in contact with me for any follow-up or whatever, that's my email address. Should this presentation is being videotaped, so it'll be there, or recorded, I guess. Videotaped is so 20th century. So we're being recorded digitally. So thanks for everybody. How do we define engagement? That's a topic for another time. Not everybody agrees on that. It's not just a question of compliance. It's not just a question of doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it. As far as the students are concerned, to me, it's a global thing. It's a question of active involvement in the course at the appropriate times, and that's a whole other thing. But suffice it to say that there is not universal agreement on what engagement is. But the idea, I think, from a minimal standpoint, is that students are involved in the course in a timely fashion. As far as, and there's a continuum as far as what that involvement is. Just like, you know, when you talk about engagement, and we did that in the opening slide. You know, are your students, how involved are your students, or disinvolved are your students? So I think we've reached the end of our time. Jonathan, if you want to follow up and just send me an email, I can be more happy to talk to you about that. So thank you, everybody. Have a great conference, and we're out. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you, John. Thanks, everybody else. Have a great iMoot. See you soon.